Welcome to Literary Hub. So, our language is the reflection of ourselves. A language is an exact reflection of the character and growth of its speakers. Welcome to today's class. In today's class, we are going to learn the Old English, that is Anglo-Saxon period, and its important features. Let's get into the class without wasting time. The Old English. The Old English period extends from AD 450 to AD 1150 and may be further divided into early Old English and late English periods. Old English or Anglo-Saxon period covers the span of time from the earliest written records and documents about the end of the 7th century to the beginning of the 12th century. So here are the important aspects which we need to remember coming to this Old English. The Old English period, when it was started from AD 450 to AD 1150 and may be further divided into early Old English and late English. So this was divided, the Old English period, the later it was divided into two, that is early Old English as well late English periods. Old English, or it is also called as Anglo-Saxon period. So it is also known as Anglo-Saxon periods. So why it is called as Anglo-Saxon periods, I'll let you know that in the coming slide. Over the span of time from the earliest written records and documents, because earlier whatever the records which we have observed, the written statements, the written records which have been observed, which have been studied, and from that we came to know this about the end of 7th century to the beginning of 12th century. So till when it continued to the end of the 7th century to the beginning of the 12th century, right? So important aspects that we need to know is that this Old English period has started at AD 450 to AD 1150, and it later divided into late English period or Old English, right? So this period is also called as Anglo-Saxon period and covers the span of time from the earliest written records documents about the end of 7th century to the beginning of the 12th century, right? So these are the important elements which we need to understand about the Old English. Old English was almost a pure, isn't it? Nowadays, if we observe the English, so there are many things which have been with dialogues or the pronunciation and the consonant, change of consonant, change of all these things we have observed, vowels and all we have observed. But then Old English was almost a pure, a mixed language with very little foreign elements, isn't it? So very little foreign elements are there. So nowadays the language, if we observe, so foreign elements are more foreign elements have been compiled with the language which we are speaking. But when it comes to the Old English, it is very pure and mixed language. A very significant fact about Old English is that it is nearer to the German, isn't it? So it is not nearer to the Britain English. It is nearer to the modern German than the modern English. Very important point. So Old English, sometimes a question may be asked that how the Old English is related and how, or if not, it may be like this, the English is nearer to which, in the sense, modern German than the modern English, right? So this is about the Old English introduction, right? Let's get into the next slide and see about this Old English period. As I told you that I'll be discussing about the Anglo-Saxon periods, why this Old English period is called as Anglo-Saxon periods. And I told you that this is the period which has been from 450 to 1066. The age started in the 5th century when the Jutes, Angels, and Saxons, right? So Jutes, one community, Angels, one community, Saxons, right? So what these all have come to England. So from which place? From Germany. So here Jutes, Angels, Saxons came to England from Germany. And after their entry to the Germany, what happened? They fought with these English tribes. They fought with these English tribes and they defeated them. So obviously what happened, if one community or one kingdom of people, if they have occupied other kingdom, they start their own rule. So here also it was the thing happened that here in the 5th century, Jutes, Angles and Saxons came to England. From which place? From Germany. So after coming, what happened? They have defeated the English tribes. As they defeated English tribes, what happened? They started their reign. Their rule has started over there. So as their rule has started, so what happened? Their what their language or their style of living has propagated in that particular area. So it how long it was continued? It was continued till 1066 with Norman conquest. In the sense, then Normans have conquered that. Right. So the historical events which influenced the literature of this period were, so what so all these things have led the change in the literature, right? So Christianity reached England. Why? Because Norman have conquest, isn't it? They have conquered the kingdom. So what happened? Christianity reached England and Christianization of the pagan English tribes began. So what their rule has started over there. In the 7th century, monasteries were established where a written literature began. So when the written literature was began, that's a very, very important one. When monasteries were established, where a written literature began. Earlier to this, whatever existed as literature was oral, isn't it? Old English, Anglo-Saxon period. So we have seen in the previous class also about the various theories, right? Like a ding dong theory, poo poo theory. We have seen all these things. So it's not a literature which was in the form of written, isn't it? So what? It's all oral. It's an oral one. So here, when the written literature was started, so when the monasteries compilation of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, right? So this is very, very important. So when it was started, Alfred the Great, who reigned over England. So from which period to which period? That as we discussed. So here, just so there, England from 871 to 1901 encouraged education and supervised the compilation of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. So what happened? Supervised. So whatever it has been made, it was definitely the foundation which was given. This is what happened. He started. Who is that? Alfred the Great. When his rule has started in England, that is from the period 871 to 1901, he encouraged the education and supervised the compilation of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, right? So these are the very, very important aspects, right? Coming to the next one, let us see some of the important elements or the features of this Anglo-Saxon period or Old English period. So what were the literary works? What were the literary works of this period? Beyond the earliest epic of English literature was written in this period. The Seafarer, the Husbands, these are the literary works of this Old English period, right? So these are the important literary works of this Old English period. And the Wanderer Message, the Wife's Lament are among the remarkable poems of the age. Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, written in this age, is the earliest prose of English literature. And coming to the literature features of the age, so literary features of the age, most of the writers of this age are unknown except Caedmon, isn't it? So because see what happened, we generally see if something has been written by the poet name will be given, right? And the writers, so such a way the things which have been presented by the writers and the poets, so what their names have been published. But then in Old English period, so many things have been written, many authors have been, but then their names have not been published anywhere. That is what we are not familiar with the writers and the authors. So they are unknown. Most of the writers of that particular age, that Old English, because we have seen that most of the time we have gone with the oral and then we have started the literature, that written literature has started. So what happened? People are not much aware about this literature. That is what most of the writers' names were unknown. So only the one writer who was very familiar at that particular from Caedmon. So what Caedmon, who is held to be the best or the first known poet in English and paid. So the first historian, though Christianity is traceable,
Paganism dominates the literary spirit of the time. Heroic deeds, love of sea adventure, intense love of glory, and the savagery are the main features of the literature of this period. So, what are the main features of the literature of this period? In the sense, there are a few elements which we need to remember. That is, heroic deeds, love of sea adventure, intense love of glory, and savagery are the main features of the literature of this period. Right. So, these are the important features of Old English or Anglo-Saxon periods. So thank you for watching. Keep watching my channel for more videos and all. In the next video, let's see about the literary devices or figures of speech. So tomorrow in next class, we're going to see about the literary devices or the figures of speech. Thank you. Have a nice day.